again, we're back with the next step in prepping our owl boxes. As I mentioned to you last time, early October is when eastern screech owl males begin scouting sites. So it's time to get your owl boxes ready, and there are a couple of things that we need to do that. Eastern screech owls don't make their own nests. They use whatever is already there provided by nature or other animals. So you can't put an owl box up without something in the bottom of it. Otherwise, you're not going to get any owls in it. You're likely to get squirrels who are going to think that's a great invitation to build their own nest inside the box. So we've tried a few different things over the years to put in the bottom of our owl box. We've tried different types of leaves, some evergreen leaves, oak trees and stuff. Thanks to the weather that we had last night here in Grapevine, we actually had some rain and some wind, and there were a lot of leaves on the ground. So I was able to scavenge a lot of leaves from my neighbor's trees, and some from ours as well. We don't have an oak tree, which is what I'm actually going to primarily use this year. I just like the way that they've held up in the past versus some of the other leaves that I've tried. So anyway, I scouted some fallen oak tree leaves. Thank you, Emily and John, for your contribution. And so I just like to strip them. You can just kind of take some, literally clumps of leaves. Here's some that are a little bit further along in the drying process. It doesn't matter. I like to put different ages of leaves in the box. You can even use some green ones. Now, these were loquat. These were an evergreen tree that I have in my backyard that bears fruit. I use these thinking, oh, that they'd be great and waxy and hold up for a long time. Literally, by the time February came around and our female owl started to become interested in nesting, all of the debris that we had put in the bottom of the box had crumbled down to almost nothing, and it was too late for us to do much about it. So we're not going to use those as our primary source of substrate. Also, there are some reputable sites out there like Audubon and so forth that do recommend that you can use like wood shavings or bedding as used for small animals like small rodents, for mice and hamsters. A lot of people have that because they have little critters. We don't actually recommend using that because of the moisture that it holds, especially here in North Texas. Unless your box is completely waterproof, I don't recommend using small animal bedding in the box. I recommend using leaves which don't hold the moisture. You want that box to stay dry on the inside, especially when there are eggs, because eggs are porous. So you need it to stay dry and up out of water and moisture there. And anyone who uses that other type of bedding or wood shavings knows that once that stuff gets wet, it takes a long time to dry out. So we're not going to use that. Also, in the past, we've had really big problems with ants. We have a lot of ants here in North Texas, a lot of rain sometimes, a lot of drought even, and a lot of different types of ants live in this area. My parents, who have owl boxes as well, actually lost their season one year when ants invaded the box. I think around the time that the male and female were thinking about nesting, and they abandoned the box because of ants inside. So well, our philosophy is not to use pesticides and things around the garden, where you're going to have your owl box, no pesticides, no poisons, all natural is generally best. We have learned the hard way that we absolutely have to treat our box with something. Otherwise, ants can come up through these water drain holes in the cracks and stuff, and the air holes, and that can be a real problem. So we can't do a whole lot about them coming in through the top, through the air holes, except to prepare our tree. And I do like to use this Raid bug barrier product, primarily because it has a trigger. I don't know if you can see this little auto trigger here, but I'm going to show you what it does. I mean, it could go like 15, 20 feet because it's battery powered, and it can really get up there. So I like to shoot this around the tree trunk, around the perimeter, above and below my box. And I do this every time it rains. I do it every couple of months if it's not raining, just as a preventive. And it's really worked well to keep the ants limited around the box, but my big guns, my big boy, my most effective is to use a tiny bit of 7 powder. Don't hate me, don't cringe. I know I hate it, but it absolutely keeps ants from getting to the point where they drive the owls out. So I just put like a dash. If you want to come and see how much I'm putting in here. Now I do have the lens covered up in this box because I have a camera. Didn't want this powder to come back on the camera, and I just kind of dust it down in there. I make sure that it kind of gets down in those corners. It's a very superficial thin layer, as you can see. Yeah, very, very, very light. Blow it. Okay. And then I take my handful of leaves and I just start adding. Stems are okay. It's more like nature intended that way, I'm sure. Another quick little dash. They do dust bathe like chickens inside there, so I kind of like to just very lightly distribute that around my leaf. Mix it all together. Now that it's mixed together, I can't even visually see that I have any product in there at all, right? So that's a good 2 to 3 inches of bedding in there. I like to use my little owl guy. This is not a screech owl, it's a little bit bigger, but still same philosophy, to kind of show me how deep this is going to be. Looks good. If he sits up here, he can look out. So we're going to go treat our tree. We're going to let this sit and kind of dry out in the sun a little bit. Like I said, our leaves are a little damp after our blessed rain we had last night. So going to get this dried out, and then this afternoon we're going to mount it up there in the tree. Remember, screech owls need their boxes to be about 15 feet or higher off the ground for them to feel safe and secure from ground predators. Typically we like to hang our boxes facing east so that they don't get the west sun. That did not work in our tree at the time, and our owl is used to coming to our box which faces west. So we have pretty good leaf coverage, and we're going to stick with that this year so that we don't change too much at once. We have a new owl box, and I think moving the box would be a bit much and might discourage him from returning. So we'll probably change the direction that this box faces next year. But because we've got so much going on, we're going to leave it in the same location that it's been in the past. So we'll be back this evening, and we're going to tell you guys what's going on with hanging it, and we'll see you then.